Do you want to become a strong leader that projects the right body language and the right message to your team members to lead them into success? Stay with me as we discuss the silent language of leaders and how body language can help you.
Welcome to your podcast, Online Marketing with Juan Llerena. To succeed in any entrepreneurial project, you need to get prepared and you must learn to learn, unlearn and relearn. In this podcast, we'll help you in 3 ways. First, giving you an opportunity to join a community of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs just like you, to support you and learn from each other. Second, by bringing you for free tools, tips and tricks to help you advance your projects faster and to teach you how to let the world know about your products and services. Third, by providing you with inspiration, motivation, and ideas to continue your entrepreneurial journey. We cover subjects of marketing, sales, leadership, and entrepreneurship. Join our tribe of entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs and take charge of your destiny. What are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Good morning, entrepreneurs at heart. Welcome to your online marketing podcast with Juan Llerena. Welcome to our 8th episode of this season 3 where I'm doing book reviews and talking about different important topics. So today we're talking about leadership and how you can become a better leader by being able to use your right body language to project the correct messages that you want to project to your team members and to people so you can, build trust, lead into success, and all in all attain more success overall. So today we're talking about a book called The Silent Language of Leaders, How Body Language Can Help. And this book was written by Carol Kinsey Gorman in 2011. So this is a few years back, but it's a very fairly and recent book. And the reason why I chose this is because many times we are unaware of the messages that we send with our body. Sometimes we only are focused about our voice or what we do with our hands or our facial expressions. But sometimes we tend to miss other aspects. Because we're becoming in a more of a multicultural and a more diverse society, and this is only going to increase, which is fabulous. I believe that it's important for everybody, especially the ones in those leading roles, to understand and to better be prepared for these situations when you're dealing with more diverse populations. And it is important that you don't only use your voice, but you also use your body, which it also speaks to just about everybody else. And also at the same time to be aware of other different cues that different cultures might be using. So you want to make sure that you project the right message, that you don't offend anybody, maybe even unconsciously. So you get just more success by doing that. So like I presented this, have you ever wondered, and maybe this is something that you have asked yourself, is why some people are more convincing than other people? So why is some people more engaging than others? Well, I can tell you that self-confidence is probably a good guess, but there's a much more important reason for this than words, and that self-confidence that leaders can project, but it's also how they tell their story and how they use their body language to project and tell that story. So it's not only about having words and arguments, even if they're like super really good crafted messages or crafted stories. If they don't go well along with their right body language, then they're not going to motivate anybody. So we need to make sure that we keep that in mind. And why? Well, because body language is extremely powerful. Not only by standing in front of your team or even in front of a crowd, even before you get to say the first word, your body language and the people that are actually going to be on the other side listening to you, or just by watching you, are already making assumptions, and they're pretty much guessing, and for the most part pretty good, as far as how you're feeling, how you're doing, if you are being you have confidence in what you're telling, if you know what you're talking about, and because maybe you are a very knowledgeable person about the subject you're going to speak about, but perhaps because of that tone of your voice or your body language and your facial expressions and what you're doing with your feet and what you're doing with your hands and with your whole body as a whole is sending maybe a different message. So without really having said too much, people are going to really be picking up so many cues and so many pieces of information, and maybe you haven't realized yet. So it is important that your posture, the way you move your feet and your arms, and even how you use your eyes and how you're connecting with that audience are just examples of how body language can really create, build, or make your image, and build your image or break it as somebody that is sympathetic, as somebody that is trustworthy, especially if you are in a position leader. Now, we're going to talk about this book, and that's what I like about this book, that it has a multicultural approach to it. I believe that Carol Kinsey, she did a really, really good job with that, and I encourage you to read the book. Again, just find it in your favorite bookstore, or go and shop it online. And the reason that's the reason why I picked this book. And one of the things that are very amazing that you will see is that body language is very similar across different cultures and across different languages. So we're gonna see that certain things are, certain pieces of information that our body expressions will be the same across different cultures and around different parts of the world, and how we can manage as well, like those different safe zones for people. That distance for different cultures, they vary. Even like a touch, if you touch somebody's shoulder, or if you shake somebody's hand, or how close you stand next to somebody, and if you're in front of somebody, if you're next to somebody, that all sends a message other than what you're saying. And we also talk about something that I really love a lot, and is why women are better at reading body language than men. And we have to admit that, guys. Women do a really fantastic job at that, but we'll see why. It's not just that, they're just more talented, but maybe they are, but they are, it all goes back to our brains, and how, we have been doing different roles since, the beginning of times. So in this book, Carol talks about how building strong relationships require good communication. So communication skills are important, and these communication skills include body language. So let's start from the very beginning. In this book, she talks about how important it is for strong leaders to have strong communication skills. So if you have good communication, that means that you can do more than just words. You can use your body, you can use your gestures, the way you move, the way you talk, the way you breathe, the way you make eye contact, and all about that. So your body really plays a big part. So you're not really gonna inspire anyone or convince anyone unless you use that right body language. So it needs to be synchronized, and it needs to be in tune with your mind, with your emotions, and with your body. It all has to go on the same tone. Even worse, even if you don't make the right impression, if you don't convince somebody, if you don't inspire somebody, what if you actually create the opposite? What if you make a bad impression about something, about you, or about some idea that you're projecting to the crowd? It's gonna be so much harder to sell if they don't believe you, or if they take you the wrong way. However, it is important to also realize that this body language is a great opportunity, because if it's used with good posture, facial expressions, like I said, eye contact, the touch, the smell, everything that you use to communicate with your body, it can actually be something that works on your benefit to help you build empathy with whoever you're communicating with. So as a leader, we need to realize that body language is interpreted and judged almost every instant, every moment, and very, very quickly. People, according to certain studies, as is mentioned in this book, people evaluate persons' credibilities, like if they like him or like her, if they feel they're trustworthy, or they can, that person inspires confidence, only within a few seconds. Can you guess how many seconds? Can you say 60 seconds, 30 seconds? That's way too much. It's only 7 seconds. Probably, I'd say it's about the duration of what is one of those intro ads from when you're YouTubing. That same thing. That's really short and sweet videos, because that's all what people is gonna give you to decide if they're going to give you their full attention or not. The same way with you only have about 7 seconds to create a good positive impression as a leader with that crowd, and if you loosen there, then they'll write you off. So evidently that's not going to be enough time for you to create a message, a complete idea. Even if you write the super awesome speech, if it's not convincing start of your the beginning of your speech, or the way you present that idea, and the right choice of words that you use, but also of your body language, then you risk all this work for nothing. But why and how does it work so fast? And that's how it's explained in this book about the brain and how the brain works. Because basically it says body language is fundamentally rooted in the brain's limbic system. Okay, so that sounds a little more complicated than it really is, but I did a little research, and the limbic system, it says, is a set of brain structures that are responsible for our emotions and our memory. So basically what it's saying is that it's that part of the brain that receives and processes emotional information. So in that way, it serves as some sort of an alarm system. Okay, so it's that one thing that keeps you alive, right? So it's first receives information, and then it has to quickly, determine and decide right away if it's something that is threatening or not. Okay, so since all humans are all wired the same way all around the world, and we all have a limbic system in our brains, in our body language is more or less the same across different cultures. So those expressions of fear, anger, surprise, they happen to be all the same around the world. And you can see, if you look, just kind of Google a movie from a scary movie from another country, and just kind of look at the gestures, you're going to see that that is so true. And that's also why the body language is one of the earliest forms of communication, if you think about it, right? And at that time, it only allowed that type of communication to early humans to decide within a very, very few seconds if that one person or individual that you were talking to, or you were close by, if they were a threat or if they were a friend, right? And you didn't have a whole lot of time, and that was just your survival. Now, the good news is that nowadays we don't have to depend on that limbic system to determine whether we're going to be alive or not on normal, work circumstances, college or school circumstances, or in these interpersonal relationships that we have, right? But it's a skill. Communication is a skill that it can really help us, accomplish those purposes that we have. This book also talks about how leaders that are successful leaders can also read good body language and project on themselves, right? Because you're also feeding from the crowd, and you can tell by looking at the one that is receiving the information that you are transmitting. You're like in that other side too. So because it's a communication, there's like a two-way, right? Multiple way, two channels going back and forth. So even if you're doing a monologue, right, like I am right now, I really can't tell your reaction, but I can measure your reaction probably by the email you're sending me, or those contact forms that I get, or like those likes on the postings that I make on social media. Or when somebody talks to me and say, hey, you know what, Juan, that was like so inspiring, I really never thought about that. Or maybe they say, you know what, I knew about this, but I really never thought about it this way. So, that's how I get my feedback. But in real time, body language is also the language that you can feed from other people. So when you're having conversations with other partners about different situations, business, just plans, even what you're gonna do tonight, and you're talking to your friends, you can start with throwing some ideas out, and if they're not engaged, if they don't seem interesting, they're not gonna give you any interest. But all of a sudden you say something that it picks their attention, all of a sudden, their ears will just kind of, they'll go up there, and then they will just pick it up, and then all of a sudden they'll look at you, and maybe their eyes and their irises and their pupils are going to get a little, more wide open. Okay, so it is important to recognize that it's also power and social status. It says it's also conveyed through body language. So if you want to come across as somebody strong, as somebody with authority, you have to maintain a good posture. You have to be relaxed, but you have to stand if you're standing, in a good position, in a good posture, and you have to clearly speak. And you have to keep your eyes focused. You can't be with your eyes looking down, like your fear, the person you're talking to or something, right? But you have to at the same time try to get cues from your audience or your team or whoever you're talking to try to discover what are those physical information that they're giving you, how they project their communication physically with their own body language. So like you can recognize if they're reacting to something or that's just something they do on a regular basis, right? So it is important that now we need to know, now that we're talking in a digital age and this is marketing online anyways, that if we're in a multicultural teams, it is important that we recognize communication and we understand communication with people from different backgrounds, okay? People that has experienced different areas of the country, or that they're from different countries, or that they just have different experience because they come from different walks of life. And we need to realize that the job market, and that's the one that we're in right now, and it's a very tight job market because there's a lot of jobs, but there's not a lot of people that can fill those jobs that are qualified. That this job market is growing more and more, and is more and more diverse, and is culturally more diverse with each generation that passes by. So we have to recognize that the millennials and the Gen Zers that are out there, they're more multicultural than ever. And we need to be prepared to be able to deliver a good body language and also to be able to understand, so we can create cohesive teams that are going to be willing to work together for a common goal, and that is, whatever it is that you're in. And finally, I have to mention that in this day or age, where we're talking about digital communication, video, and live video streaming, and Google Conferences, Google Hangouts, and all these other platforms, Uber Conference, and so many more that are out there, Skype, etc., for business purposes too. That this increased form of video communication, also we need to be conscious about that and be intentional as far as how we're communicating. So we need to make sure that we're looking at the screen if we're talking to people there, if that's the way we're projecting to them, and be able to project not only with our voice and how we sound, but also with our eyes. We're probably going to be closer, and our face, whether it's relaxed, it's tense, is if you're laughing or if you're moving your hands, you can use that. Even how you turn your head, if you're looking up, if you're looking down, if you're too low below the level of the camera, then you're probably going to come out as somebody like smaller, like somebody that is below other people. And so you want to be at the same level. You don't want to be also above as somebody that is coming to as an authoritarian, as somebody that is more of a dictatorship communication style. You want to be like at the same level of people so the communication can flow better. Okay. And another chapter of the book, it also talks about mastering how your body language, how that helps you become a better negotiator. And a negotiation is something that we're doing every day. Since we're little kids, we're negotiating, right? If we don't want to go to school, well, we'll try to tell mom, hey mom, or hey dad, could we, if I do this, maybe if I go to school and I get a grade, could you get me this? Or if I clean my room, would you take me somewhere, or would you give me, an allowance or whatever? So people are used to negotiating. Not everybody's good at negotiating, but in order to increase your chances of negotiation success, is that you need to master your body language and how that projects. Because when you're negotiating, you need to be able to choose the right words, but that doesn't do it all. You also have to check your posture, how that voice is coming out, how you're articulating your words, how you're moving your body, that you can look that and project that you are secure about what you're talking about and what you're looking for. So you need strong arguments. Evidently, it's not only about the body communication, having good body communication and nothing really to say, right? It's all hollow, right? It's gonna come down like a deck of cards. But if you can't do it knowing and having good arguments, that you have put some time to think about and to really solidify your arguments, then you need to accompany that with good strong body language. So there's some advices here, some tips in this book, where they say that in addition to controlling your own body language, you need to be good at reading it if you want to be good at negotiating. So here are some tips. They said tip number 1, avoid looking down at papers or anything else in the room. And that is true because you want to be focusing on whoever you're talking to, right? You don't want to be negotiating with somebody and then just looking down at on paper. It looks like you're not interested. It looks like maybe you already made your mind. You're not paying attention. So that really lowers your chances of, succeeding in your negotiation process. Also, you need to identify, what are those baselines. I mentioned that before. Like if you're talking to somebody that you're going to negotiate with and you know about the way they do eye contact, and when you're having difficult conversations that's going to put additional stress on you and in them. So you need to be able to tell whether, how you compare that to that baseline. Are they nervous? Are they overconfident? Are they showing you interest? How do they move around? Do they move their legs? Do they move their hands? Do they stand still, or they move more when you're having more difficult conversations? Another tip in the book is keeping an eye out for gesture clusters. And what they describe as gesture clusters are sets of gestures that mean something when they occur together, but not necessarily when they are, gestures by their own. So, for example, here when they're talking about ringing on the hands, it doesn't mean necessarily something, right? It can be, that you're just shaking your hands or you're just kind of getting a little relaxed, but it doesn't mean that you're uncomfortable, right? So when you combine 2 or 3 or more gestures and you can put them together, maybe they mean something, but sometimes individually they might not really mean anything. So you don't get distracted by that and you don't misinterpret anything like that, And the fourth and final tip there is to keep context in mind. So, you have to know where you're at. So like they say, you don't ever want to be with your arms across when you're talking to somebody, because you come as you are protecting yourself, as you're being more defensive, even if you only are cold. But you don't want to do that. You want to again send the right message with your body communication in the same way. Like the legs, they kind of send the same signal. But just think about how you do it when you go to the theater or to the movie theater and you sit in the front row. People just tend to cross their legs just to for comfort, and sometimes it doesn't mean that the performance is not that good or that the movie is not that good. It's just being more comfortable. Okay, and don't forget about your feet. Like if you are moving your feet, if you have like happy feet, you might come up as somebody that is impatient, somebody that is too anxious, somebody that it's insecure. So you want to make sure that you kind of keep an eye on that. And even in today's communication technology, your body is important for making that change, because people buy from people like to buy from people are always talking to people. So it is important that you use good and positive body language, because it's catchy, it spreads like a virus. People learn from people. So it is important that you, for one thing, you learn about people that are showing you good body communication skills. So look at your leaders, find good leaders to begin with. A leader is not just somebody in a power position, as we already know. Leaders are the ones that guide you in the right direction, but they have morals, they have the courage to follow suit with their beliefs, and they are good moral values. Okay, so those are good leaders, in my opinion, anyways. Okay, face-to-face communication can be replaced, and remember that you have to know that if you already know and you haven't done enough of that, you have to do more. Okay, face-to-face is the prime and the best form of communication that has ever existed, and that is still the best way to do. That's how you connect. That's why you will see that people, business owners, leaders, very, very important people, that they make an extra effort, although they can be reached by email or video conferences or all of that. They always try to make an effort to connect with their audience. Okay, and that's the reason why. So if you're looking for collaboration, right? That's what makes a really good leader too. Is a leader where everyone wants to work with, right? Nobody wants to be part of a team where the leader is somebody that is not nice, somebody that is that doesn't invite people to share their ideas, somebody that doesn't appreciate the people on their team, right? So it's important that your body language shows that interest in creating and fostering good collaboration with people. Okay, and this kind of goes back to the brain again, because as humans we're designed to collaborate, and if you want a proof of that, then you can look it up and look for I believe they're called mirror neurons. And mirror neurons are those, like when you're looking at a baby, if you remember, or if you have a relative or a friend that just had a baby, just look at the baby. And sometimes, people are like, coochie, 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 and they're playing with the baby, and you're smiling at the baby, and the baby is smiling back at you. And they're like, oh yeah, they're laughing with me. Well, what they really are, they're just imitating, because those are the mirror neurons that are working. They're already in place and they're working, and they're just imitating. So the same way, we tend to imitate, we tend to follow body language. So if you have a bad body language as a leader, then you expect that your team will have a bad body language too, a bad communication, poor collaborative teams, and you don't want to do that. So remember those mirror neurons, and because they will definitely play a role in your success as a team. And then also, gender plays an important role in body language. So there's actually a whole chapter dedicated to this, and like I said earlier, this podcast episode is that because it goes all back to the brain and how we communicate, and how male and female leaders communicate. Okay, there are major differences in how they both of them communicate. And again, one more time, it goes back to the brain. One reason, according to the book, is that men and women process emotions differently. Both men and women, they have mirror neurons, but in the case of the male brains, there's another system that is called the temporoparietal or temporoparietal junction. Okay. Anyways, and that usually takes over shortly after the mirror neurons are triggered or fired. And what happens is that men, the system usually causes the men to focus on solving and analyzing, and how to try to fix something. Okay, so like, have you had that situation where, I don't know, like I could probably have a good friend of mine or my wife or somebody that is telling me, I have this problem and that problem, and they don't want to know a solution. They don't want to know an answer. They just want to share with you what it is that they're thinking and how they're feeling, because they want to share that. And like males, and I know, I'm trying to figure out, okay, but why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, or didn't you know that you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that? Well, guess what? Women, sometimes they're just not telling you that, or they will tell you, what, maybe I should tell my sister because she knows how to listen. Well, that's because in the case of women, they tend to have more time to process this information as it's coming into them, and this fight or flight reaction doesn't quite happen as quickly in women as in men. So like when you have somebody new in the room, men and women, they realize that, but women are gonna take more time, to process those emotions and try to make sense if this is a threat or not. Men don't take that much time, and sometimes they could come rude, or sometimes they can come as people that don't really empathize really well with other people. Okay, so just it's very interesting how stress reduces that a man's ability to empathize with others. Okay, but women, they have that virtue, they have that quality that they can empathize, more and better. Okay, understanding cultural differences too in the body language is important in today's world, in today's business world, in your small business, in that little mom and pop shop that is out there, in that big enterprise that you're in that big corporation that you are. Okay, so I guess you have to just be more alert, without really creating stereotypes. That's something I want to be very careful, because many times, and we're all guilty of that to a certain degree, when we don't make an effort to consciously, be more alert of who we're dealing with, and sometimes we tend to assume things. Unfortunately, when there's like negative rhetoric about people, and let's say the immigrant communities, and yes, I have to talk about that because we need to call it out. And when there's a lot of that, then some people, they just tend to assume that certain groups are better educated than others in general, and that rule applies to everybody, which is not necessarily true. And we have to be mindful about how we're dealing with people, how we're, what nerves, what fibers we're touching, what buttons we're pushing. Because if we have multicultural people in our teams, we want to make sure that we take that benefit of their different background, of their different experiences, to make our teams more innovative and more innovative. And if we want innovation in our business, if we want to thrive and we want to succeed, then innovation is a very, very big piece of the equation to make you a successful business and a successful business for the future. Okay, and also, You have to be aware of how you use your body language also to project to these multicultural communities out there, because they will be the people that are listening to you. They can be your future clients, they can be your customers, and you don't want to set anybody off. You don't want to do something that, all of a sudden, somebody doesn't want to give you a chance to make it right, because guess what? You're not the only one doing that, unless you have discovered something that nobody else knows. But otherwise, people have many opportunities and many choices to be able to go and do business with whoever they want. So you have to educate yourself about that. Well, that was a very interesting topic. Just kind of summarizing and recapping, we have to remember that leadership, and you have to remember that leadership is always based and relies a lot on communication. In any business, communication is the most difficult part that it always takes a lot of effort, and you can never do enough of preparation and improvement, and you can never do enough communication to get everybody on board and everybody on the team. But remember that communication, and most importantly, is just more about than words. It's more than just documents. Communication is also how you express, how you shake hands, how you project your body, how you stand, the tone of your voice, how loud it is, how you make eye contact. If you say something and you don't really mean it, people are smart, people are going to be able to tell. All right, what to do? Well, just practice, just practice in the mirror. I do this a lot, so I can actually be more aware. Maybe record yourself. Everybody has a cell phone, a recording camera right on your pocket, and so just record yourself. Don't put it anywhere. Just kind of practice and see how you project to others, and maybe just ask some other people, hey, I want to show you this. Somebody that you trust, and that is gonna respect you. And they just come, hey, do you feel that was motivational? Do you feel that was sincere? Do you feel that came out powerful? And then you can learn, as long as you're willing to learn and you're willing to listen to positive criticism, then, criticism is good. That's how you grow. Okay, my friends, well, I hope you enjoyed this book. Okay, this is one of my favorite books in this season. I have created very interesting books for this season for you. I have spent a lot of time doing this, and I hope you're enjoying this. Nothing else. You can just find more about this book. It's called The Sign Language of Leaders and How Body Language Can Help You, by Carol Kinsey. My call to action today is to, again, just invite people. That's it. Just share the Facebook page, Juan Llerena, or the Instagram account at JLLB Media, and just share with others, with friends, with family, people that you think they can benefit from these conversations, that I hope you find them useful, that you find them of good value, that you find them also entertaining when you're doing the things that you like to do when you're listening to podcasts, whatever that is. If you're on the radio, if you're running, if you are mowing the lawn, if you're shoveling the snow, depending on where you're at. Nothing otherwise. I wish everyone to have a great, happy Thanksgiving coming up this following Thursday. This podcast show will be airing on Friday, November 16th. I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time just so I have enough time to do everything else. But I really wish you, everyone, a happy Thanksgiving. And remember that the most important part of Thanksgiving is now Black Friday or Cyber Monday, although that's a very important part for retailers and marketers. But for you in your personal life, to be thankful for the things that you have, for be thankful for the people that you have close to you, to be thankful for being alive, for getting up in the morning, and for having that opportunity to make a difference in the life, doing whatever it is that you love doing. So without any further saying, I want to wish you a great week, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be releasing a new podcast episode next Friday. We'll see you there. Bye-bye.